So let's look at this first tool for the module, what I call your guidance principle system. Before we get immersed into this tool, like I said, it's quite a complex tool, so I will actually take you through an example of one of mine. Let's go to the learning capture sheet and just to get a little bit more understanding what personal philosophy is, because it was a new thing to me. I'd never even heard of it until I started reading about it and having I wanted a guidance system that could guide me, especially when I was facing challenges or a situation that was unknown to me. I didn't know what to call on, so I called on the old information that I had. So the point of renewing it and revising it was a big turning point, really. It gave me a lot of strength because the B bit is so important. It's so integral to us, and trying to formulate this philosophy to be this character of example, really, just to be a positive example to the people around me in every situation that I try to be in, really gives me that intention. So on the learning capture sheet in the workbook, our guidance principle system defines our principles. I never really thought of the question of what principles do you live by? If somebody asked you that question, I'm sure there'd be a number that you could give straight away. But if you really started to think deeply about it and took some time about what are the core principles that I live by? And more importantly, why do I live by them? What information has created these beliefs and values around these principles? What's important to me? And it's good to do that exercise, to go back and go, what principles do I live by and why? And are they the right principles to live by now, or do they need to be reviewed and refined? So it defines our key principles. It identifies, and this I think is really important, who is it I want to be? I think we're getting lost sometimes. We have so many distractions, and we've got to go back to self again and go, who is it I want to be? This character, this person. Who is it I'm trying to emulate in this world? And who is it I want to be at the end of it all when it's up to review? What do I want people to say about me? It's the legacy bit, but really about this day to day, going through life, about having a guidance system, an operating system that we can use, that in those times of challenge or those situations, we can call on that and go, well, this is who I am. And this is integral to my beliefs and the values that I live by. This is a big one, holds us to account. If you've got principles to live by and you want to live by them and be honest and authentic, then it will hold you straight, it will hold you to account, and it'll only hold you. You know your principles, you know the behaviours behind those principles and the actions. And if you don't follow those principles, then there's going to be an internal clash. There is going to be an internal clash against your values and your beliefs if your actions aren't in match with what your internal values and beliefs are. And you're going to start to feel stressed. You may start to feel anxious because what you're saying and then what you're doing isn't congruent. It doesn't match up. So once you identify your principles, they hold you to account, personally to account to yourself. I've mentioned this on the previous video and touched on it on this video. Knowing who you are, you can call on it in adversity and challenge. When these situations arise, you have a guidance system from the principles that you want to live by. And then you can act accordingly in that situation. And I know it might be hard sometimes. Other people around you might be expecting you to do other things. But you live by those principles. And this strengthens your resolve again, brings forth that order. Powerful thing once you know what your principles are, because then you can face what you have to face and you can do it that's linked to your values and your beliefs. So when you sleep at night, you know that actually I have been the person I wanted to be today. Or sometimes you may be going to bed and going, actually I faced a situation and I wasn't the person that I tried to aspire to be. What do I want to do? What do I choose to do now? Do I review it? Do I look at my principles again and define what those behaviours are? And the last one, every principle has a price and a promise. It will take a price to live by your principles. It might take strength of character. It might take resilience, discipline. It might, unfortunately, be a price that you will have to pay. You may distance yourself from other people because your principles are different. You live by your principles, but behind the principles that you live will be a promise. That might be a calm mind. That might be a strong demeanour and strong character. When people talk about it, you go, yeah, they've got a really strong character. Why? Because they say what they're going to do and they make a promise to themselves that they do it. And they are always consistent in their actions and their behaviours because they live by a defining set of principles and they know what those principles are. So when we look at the capture sheet, really start thinking about your principles. If that question came to mind, what principles do you live by? Okay, so what behaviours then do those principles dictate when it comes to it? How do you call on those principles? How do you live them on a day-to-day basis? Quite a challenge, but once you have clarity on what your principles are, then things start to fall in place. And you can, again, challenge the information. What we do on the information we have maybe isn't wrong, but maybe it's time to change the information, which will change our beliefs, our values, maybe the judgment we put on things, and certainly the way we think and act in this world. So I'm going to move to the tool, the GPS tool, and I've done it in a different way so I can show you the example of my tool. And what I've done is I've taken the information from my actual tool and put it onto the actual board. So it gives you an understanding of actually how the tool works. Again, I haven't got the answers. I've only got the questions. And I'll give you my example. Your principles are going to be different to mine. Think about maybe role models, what principles they live by. That's where I started. And I started to then formulate my own principles, which then came to my own philosophy. So when we look at the GPS system, first of all, we start at principle. So my first principle that I'll introduce you to is treat yourself like you really matter. So that's a principle that I live by. I treat myself now like I really matter. Now this is what I wasn't doing when I became ill. I wasn't treating myself like I matter. I was just going, working hard, not looking after myself, not getting the rest, not looking after my well-being. So I changed that principle now, and it's really clear in my head. Now, behind a principle, we look for an identity, who I want to be, and this is a real strong link here. It's the be bit. Everybody wants an identity or searching for an identity. Identify it. A healthy and strong person with lots of energy. That's who I want to be. If I treat myself like my matter, then the identity that I want to adopt is this healthy and strong person. But especially the energy bit. I see so many people around with low energy, not looking after themselves. So I want this energy. I want to be able to get up in the morning and maybe inspire people or inspire myself or do the things that I want to do. That's the identity that I'm really searching for. So then this is the behaviours bit, the do bit. Regular exercise. I try to eat well and I take rest now. I don't work at 100 miles an hour. I bring that on myself now. I bring that order and I demand rest of myself. You know, I'll take the walks, I'll read my books, I'll just take some isolation time where I can just be on my own and really gather my thoughts and think deeply. But I rest. I'm not always on the go. I don't burn out. I balance it now. I put it on the scales and make sure that my work and my purpose is as strong as my rest and my well-being. And we do things for reward, especially around feeling. Why are we doing this? Goes back to that why. We look for a reward. We have to be really honest. We do things because there's a reward at the end of it. My reward is I can cope better, especially with adversity and challenges. I have more energy now. I can live longer, hopefully. Now, I know some things are not in my control, but if I look after myself like I really matter, I, eat the right food, I do the exercise, hopefully I will live a little bit longer. And I just feel stronger. I get up in the morning now, and where before I just felt weak, I didn't have the energy, no vitality. Now I have lots of strength, not just in body, but in mind. I think this is really important, and that links again with the identity. So for my one key principle here, I treat myself like a mat that I always bring into mind, comes an identity that I want, a behavior, the do bit, and the reward, the why bit. So that's one principle. A second one on my GPS tool is to be a positive role model for others. I think I've talked a little bit about it, about be the example. That is my intention now, and it drives everything that I do. It gives me my identity. My identity to be a kind and good person who can be trusted by others. And I hope that's the case, because I constantly try to be this example to people. When it brings it into consciousness, when I meet people, to try and be a good person, be kind. And with my strength and my energy, hopefully that I try to achieve that aim. The behavior bit, the do bit, this is the one where you hold yourself out. Be polite. I'm very respectful. I'll help others. And I'll also share what I know. If I find out something and somebody's in need, then I'll share that knowledge. I make the videos, I put them on YouTube. I constantly try and share the new things that I know. And if people adopt it and take it on, that's great. That's their choice. But I'm constantly trying to learn to share things. And my last one, really, the reward. I have a very clear purpose in life. I help others to grow. And I do believe I've got a strong character. So this purpose bit is so important to me. I don't drift anymore. Where before it was work hard and my purpose was to try and be successful and earn lots of money and, work hard. And maybe you've changed my purpose a little bit now. Being successful, of course, is important. But helping others, strong in character. I really want people to look back when they think about me and say, John was of strong character. He always did what he said he was going to do. I think that's the key thing. If you're going to make a promise, deliver your promise. People hold you account by what you do, not what you say. I hear lots of people say lots of things. I'm going to do this, I'm loyal, I'm respectful. And then I look at their behaviours and they're completely different and they're not being authentic. And again, that's to me, I measure people on character, not on their status or their wealth. I measure the person they actually are. Are they good? Are they kind? Are they generous? Do they want to help others in need? So interesting video, this one, about some deep thinking. Like I said, I don't know the answers. I can give you the questions and some examples. Please sit and think about this when you're working on those tools. Think about the principles. Who is it you want to be? Maybe write that down. And it's a powerful approach. Once you have 3 or 4 principles that you can live by, on the understanding of real true knowledge that create beliefs and those values that then bring forth that character, which will bring through that control and that self-reliance. And when that adversity comes, you can face it because the foundations are strong. Nobody can challenge them. Nobody can rattle you from them. You're strong there. You're really firm-footed because the principles you live by are very strong in your mind, and you know the behaviours and the person that you want to be. So I hope it helps. Thank you for your time, energy and focus. The next video I'm going to introduce the model watcher, a great technique, and again something that can really hold you to account and again strengthen your character. So I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.